Welcome to the Immeasurably More podcast. This is Jill. Today is a very special episode because we're bringing you voices from the Hunter's Hope Family Symposium, a gathering that has become more like a family reunion. We've been gathering and doing this for over 25 years, and our families mean so much to us. And I believe after you listen to these podcasts, they'll mean so much to you as well. It's a place where families living with rare diseases come together with people who truly understand. We understand the fear, the uncertainty, the heartbreak, and the overwhelming love that comes with caring for a child with a terminal illness or grieving the loss of a child. They'll share honestly about how this journey has shaped their marriages, changed and strengthened their faith, and taught them what it means to keep going when everything in life seems impossibly hard. Our prayer is that wherever you find yourself today, you'll be encouraged by their courage, their honesty, and above all, by the faithfulness of God in the midst of suffering and heartbreak. We're so grateful you're here, and I'm so thankful that you moms are sitting here at this table with me. After having interviewed some of the dads, it was so refreshing and awesome, and I'm just looking forward to all of you guys sharing your journeys. I have 5 moms with me right now: Anna, Carly, Zulia, Miranda, and Caitlin, and they're going to share a little bit of their story, and then we're going to get into some questions, and I'm going to share those questions with our listeners, and then you guys are going to get to choose whatever question you want to answer. So Anna, you have the microphone. If you would start us off, that would be great.
This is Anna. Thank you, Jill, for asking me to do this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what God has done in our lives, and especially in the life of our sweet daughter, Gracie. So for the last several years, if you would have been able to see me, you would have seen a woman on the kitchen floor crying her eyes out. You would see me in bed, not able to sleep, also crying. You would see me often going before the Lord and asking the question, why? And this is the reason. My husband and I have been married for 26 years. We are high school sweethearts.
Oh, love that.
God has blessed us with 8 beautiful children. We have a daughter at the top, 6 boys, and then a beautiful girl at the bottom. And disability has actually always been a part of our lives. I am born with a disease called Charcot-Marie tooth disease. It was inherited from my dad. It's a neuromuscular disorder, so it affects our brain, and in turn, it affects our nerves and our joints. So I walk with a limp. I have balance issues, and I have given it to 5 of my children. So when Gracie was born, she started showing signs about 3 years old of her little foot turning inward. And we thought this was the path that she was also following. So signed her up for the orthopedic, like all the rest of us. Get in line. But after a few years, she was about 5 years old. She started school. She started to have a little tremor. I also have a little tremor. Again, thought it was pretty normal. But then I think about midway year, she started learning to read and write. She had this beautiful cursive that she would write. Midway through the year, those things started to be really challenging for her. She couldn't read. Her writing became hard because of the tremor. So we talked to the doctor about it. The doctor actually scheduled her for an MRI. He said, something's up. Let's just check and see what it could possibly be. So we went and got the MRI done. The results came, of course, nowadays through my chart right away into my inbox. I'm sitting at the kitchen sink, washing dishes and reading the possibilities of what my daughter has. Right away, the first thing on the list, white matter changes. And the first possible reasoning was leukodystrophy. Never heard the word in my life, obviously. Really didn't think anything of it. I didn't know enough to think anything of it. Still just washing dishes, doing the thing, Googling leukodystrophy while I'm standing there, and horrible things come up. But I will never forget the first thing that I read about it. Life expectancy was 2 to 3 years. Right away, I'm a glass half full person. So, well, that's not it. That was my first automatic reaction. It's not it. That's not it. And another thing that growing up with my dad, who is a glass half full person, he used to say our disease was the blessing. That's actually what we called it. It's called the blessing because it has done so much in our character and our family. It's made us who we are. Whatever this was, I knew it was going to be a blessing. Later on in that day, the doctor did call and say we need to schedule for a genetic test as soon as possible. In fact, if you could go today. I still wasn't really thinking it was anything. I thought they were just being a little dramatic. So the next day we went and got it done, though, and she put a stat on it. 3 weeks later, we did get the results, and again, through my chart, and it did say it was leukodystrophy. Did not register. We had a meeting with the doctor on over Zoom. My sister, my nurse practitioner sister, was in the room with us when we had the meeting. Very positive, though. Even the geneticist was extremely positive. It was like, we don't think it's one of the worst kinds. There are some others that are way worse. It's going to be slower progression, we believe. We think that she's going to maybe be fine. It was very a positive experience.
Which is so unusual.
Yeah, and I think that that's God's grace to us because we wouldn't have been able to take the entire story at the time. And I feel like that's where God kind of just, he lays what he can in front of you when you can handle it. And I feel like he was really gracious to us. But a few months later, we went to Stanford to see the neurologist there. And that's when the truth was told in very plain language. He looked at us in our face and said, "I'm really sorry. It's going to be a really bumpy road." And Gracie's personality, she's pure sunshine.
She really is. It lights up the room.
Yeah. And that's what she did that day. She walked into that room and that doctor smiled and laughed and giggled with her. And she bounced around the room like she does. And he just could not stop tearing up and crying and said, "I'm really sorry, guys. I don't want to tell you this, but she will lose all of her abilities and likely die very young. We don't know when. Her condition is called HSPD1 leukodystrophy. There's no other cases that we know of in the world. There might be some, we just don't know them, that have Gracie's type. So we don't have a roadmap of what this is going to look like for her. That was in 2023, and we are in 2026 now. So we have seen progression, obviously. Just this week, she's not walking. She was walking Monday and woke up Tuesday and stopped walking. And so, I, again, am a half full kind of person. I've kind of just let it. It hurts. It's sad watching her suffer and hurt, but I really don't have the emotions every day that I thought that I would. Again, God is gracious and kind and good to me. Tuesday was hard, really hard.
You mean Tuesday before coming here?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a hard day. Fell asleep, bawling my eyes out because, we don't know what tomorrow holds for her. She still eats by mouth. We'd have to feed her because of her tremor. Things are, much different. I guess looking back now, I realize that God has been faithful. The road changed. Like our path that we thought we were going down has changed, but he never has, and he didn't change. That's really what I just want to share. He won't change. Your path, whatever God has called you to in your life, he doesn't change.
Thank God for that, because everything in life changes.
And that's what I feel like God has told us. When I remember when the Stanford doctor asked us about, or told us about it on that way, it's about an hour and a half from our house. On that drive home, I just looked out the window and asked the Lord for more joy and strength than I've ever had. And God, let this be from you and let our story be spread across the world so that Gracie's life can be used and we can be used for you. And he's been able to do that.
Your faith inspires me. It really does. So I'm so thankful that you agreed to share in this way as well. Because I see your posts on Instagram and I'm so encouraged and I'm so blessed. And I think we all have a different faith experience, a different walk with God. Some of us are mad, some of us
Yeah.
are don't even want to have anything to do with God. And that is all so real and so good.
Yeah.
And God doesn't ask any more of us. Like, just be you right
Yes.
now in the midst of all that you're going through. So I just want to thank you for your faith and how you're living it out in the midst of the story that God is writing.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. And I'm excited to hear everyone else's story too.
Yes, yes. So, Carly, you get the mic next. Can you share your story with us?
Yeah. Hi, this is Carly. Colton and I have been married almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in August. We have two beautiful girls. Jolie is 5.5, and Hadley is 3. We had Hadley in 2023. She was preemie. I had a little complications just at 36 weeks, so she almost made it to be classified as full term. And then she was also born breech. So between those two things, a lot of the developmental delays, she had hip dysplasia. So we just chalked a lot of this stuff right at first up to being preemie and just, all of that. And so at about 7 weeks, she got sick with parainfluenza. She had a fever, so I had to take her into the ER because she was under 2 months. They said just wait it out, keep her away from people. And then 2 weeks after that, she had her 2-month checkup. And we got her weight back, and I looked at her doctor and I'm like, she only gained 1 ounce these last 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, she had been throwing up, projectile vomiting, which the ER nurse, when we went in there, said they don't classify it as projectile vomiting unless it's like 20 feet. I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
I'm like, she's 5 pounds. So
Right. She's
if I feel like that's unreasonable. But thankfully, her primary care was like, no, like, let's look into this. And so figured she had reflux. Her sister had reflux. So we're like, probably that. Got her on meds and then scheduled a 2-week weight check. She had gained close to 6 ounces in that 2 weeks. And um, so her doctor was like, well, that's on the lower end, but that's kind of on track. So we still kept doing the 2 weeks, and then it was just hit and miss. So there would be sometimes she would gain 1 ounce in 2 weeks, sometimes she'd gain 7 ounces, and then anything in between. They did some blood work, and her eosinophils were high, so they thought, oh, she probably has a milk allergy. So I still wanted to breastfeed, so I cut dairy out of my diet so I could do that for her. And then also pumped in a couple of the bottles throughout the day. We fortified it with formula just to give her some extra calories. And that worked at first, and then it didn't work. So everything we tried, like, it started to work and gave us like sense of false hope that, oh, this was the issue. And then next time around, it's like, okay, well, maybe not. Got her into feeding therapy, physical therapy, took her to the chiropractor, trying to do all those things to see if we could get her stronger, to keep everything down. At the beginning of August, so right at 5 months, we got her into a GI specialist to look at things. They diagnosed her with gastroparesis, so delayed emptying, saying like, oh, she's not emptying everything. So when she gets a full bottle, when her tummy's already half full, that makes sense why she's throwing up half the bottle. Which throughout this whole time, like, her doctor and the GI specialist, like, they all believed me, which after being here and hearing other people's stories, I realized, like, that's actually really rare. to have doctors that are on board and helpful from the get-go. So that is a huge blessing for us. Did almost all the GI studies that you could think of, besides the emptying. Her swallow study came back normal. They're like, yeah, she's doing really good eating. It's just the gut part. And so that was encouraging yet frustrating because nothing that we were trying was like sticking and actually working. And then on August 23rd, it was my first day teaching, and Colton took Hadley in for a weight check. She had only gained an ounce, and her PCP was like, all right, we're done with this. I'm going to admit her for a 24, 48-hour observation. All eyes on her so we can get this figured out because this has been too long. We need to figure it out. So he called me, let me know that. I left school early, figured I'd be back on Monday. On that following Friday, August 25th, we had all the tests, checked heart, checked lungs. Then we did the MRI, which was supposed to be another box to check off. And then her neurologist came in, pulled in a chair, and we're like, oh, which I had already read in my chart that it was abnormal. But I did refrain from Googling too much because I also didn't know. All it said was abnormal. So I'm like, what? I don't even know what to Google. But when she pulled in the chair, Colton and I kind of made a joke like, oh, so this is serious. And she's like, I just want to sit. And she was there for over an hour talking to us. And I was holding Hadley, and she was still, just in the 9 pounds. She was teeny tiny. She let us know that the white matter in her brain was growing at a slow rate. And it also looks like some had been diminishing and disappearing, and told us that would be a type of leukodystrophy. We just kind of looked at each other. We hadn't heard that word before. And I'm looking at Colton. He's a paramedic, so I also assume he knows everything medical.
Right.
Sometimes he thinks he does too, but so I was trying to get a read, and he's just nodding his head, taking it all in, and I'm like, okay, his reaction doesn't seem terrible, so this isn't that bad. And so I looked at her, I'm like, okay, so then what's the treatment, or how do we cure this? And she paused, and she took a deep breath and nodded her head. And instantly, my heart's doing it right now, just started pounding out of my chest. And she said, there is none. This is progressive. Right now, there's no cure. There's no treatments. And because it was diagnosed in infancy, the highest range would be 3 to 5 years. And I feel like, at least for me, as a mom, there's 2 nightmares. And it's either you pass, leaving your young children behind, or it's your children leave you behind. So just hearing, she didn't say it bluntly, but you're going to have to bury your daughter. I just held her tight. I kissed her head. And then I looked at Colton because I'm like, I need you to reassure me right now. And he was just stone cold too, trying to process what's being told. And I'm like, God, you need to wake me up from this nightmare. This is not happening. And after those words, I kind of went on autopilot for the rest of that admission. We had our palliative care doctor who is phenomenal as well. He's trying to explain stuff to us and helped us write some different goals that we had for Hadley. And the first one I said was that God miraculously heals her. He nodded that and wrote it down. And then he also encouraged us to think of some smaller goals. So we worked through that, but I was also thinking the smaller goals don't matter. She needs this healing. So that was a Friday. And They told us not to Google, and that's the one time I obeyed.
I was going to say, that's so hard.
She's like, you won't like what you see. And I'm like, well, I mean, I can already put 2 and 2 together. You told us, the lifespan. I don't need to know. I already know the worst case scenario. So I stayed off my phone for the weekend. But yeah, that was hard, like on a Friday. And then they all go home for the weekend. So then that left us Saturday and Sunday to just attempt to process something that you just can't even process. We had a lot of people come up and pray. And earlier, our church was going through like a deep dive into the book of Mark. And a couple weeks before, we had read the story of the lady who was crawling and touched Jesus's cloak. And then that feeds into the story of Jairus and his daughter. That story that whole chapter in Mark has been part of her story. But I remember, and Colton was working that Sunday that we went through that chapter. But when he was there, he said, as she was telling me everything, I just kept picturing the woman who touched his cloak, Jesus's cloak, and got healed. And Hadley can't crawl to him, but I can carry her to touch Jesus's cloak. And so I just have that vision of carrying her. And so then I had the second half of Jairus, who, as the dad, went and begged for Jesus to come and heal his sick daughter. And while he was begging, that's when the woman touched him. And so there's this delay. Jesus heard Jairus's people saying, hey, don't bother him. She's already passed. And Jesus turned and looked at Jairus and said, don't be afraid, just have faith. And so that's kind of been her verse that we've stuck with, is don't be afraid, just have faith. And I'd love for it to mean that Jesus is going to miraculously heal Hadley here on earth. I can't see into the future. I don't know if that miraculous earthly healing is going to happen for her. We pray for it every single day, in the hard days and the easy days and every other kind of day in between, just kind of remembering that. 6 months later, she started having infantile spasms. We put her on a high dose of steroids, and we just began the taper. And then the next day, she appeared to have one. Thankfully, her neurologist was on call that weekend, so we could talk to her directly. We sent her the video, and she's like, stop the taper, go back to the original dose, and then we'll touch base on Monday. And that night, we grabbed Jolie's little preschool Bible, and we're like, let's just open to a random book, a random story. So Jolie opened it up, and it was to the story of Jairus. So there's just been things like that throughout this time, that even if all it does is bring us comfort to know that, like, God is with us. I don't know what God is promising us through Hadley or for Hadley, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that He is promising to take care of us, whatever that looks like. So just those little reminders have been life-saving, honestly. I feel like those little things are little times that He does pull us out of the nightmare that we're living in, to remind us of how we can find the joy, find the peace. And Hadley brings so much of it. It's just crazy to me how someone who lives like inside such a chaotic life, like her brain, her GI system, everything is chaos. But she so peaceful and has the sweetest demeanor. And I had said that even as like a baby, fresh newborn, there was just something about her, Jesus in her. And she is made so much in His image, probably more in His image than me, because she doesn't choose to be mad or angry. She doesn't do anything out of malice. I don't know if this is
pure.
and I don't know if it's theologically correct to say, like, but she can't sin. She doesn't know how to. And like, what a gift that is to be able to have someone so pure and so Christ-like in my arms next to me.
I think that's what I miss most about Hunter is that purity and the glow of glory, God's glory, just like so pure and so beautiful.
Yeah.
And they radiate joy. They don't have all of these things that we have coming at us all the time in our lives. And we're just like, get so distracted by so much in life. And they're just so, the word purity just keeps coming, and I miss that so much. Even though everything was like the suction machine was going, the oxygen tank, all the noises and the sounds and the OT and PT and all the things happening.
The
and it's
pump beeping
chaotic.
for no reason.
Right. It's just like it's all going on, but there was this overwhelming peace and joy and purity about his life that I miss so much. So I totally get what you're saying. It's just like, and yet we're all made in the image of God. Like we all are, but it just seems like these children are just even more of a pure example or pure beauty of the image of God created in. And it's just, sometimes it's hard to articulate. It really is. And I think even people that would listen to us and they hear us say this about, our children who are on oxygen or sick and struggling and suffering every day.
Yeah.
And we see that suffering every day. How can that be beautiful?
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain unless you've walked it, unless you've been in it and experienced it. It really is hard to explain, but we are doing the best we can to share the glory of God that we've experienced here on earth with our listeners. And you've done so well at that. Thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you so
for
much.
This opportunity.
Yes. Zulia, you're next. I love how you like your name.
Oh.
Zulia.
My name is
Julia with a Z.
Zulia, yeah. That's what I always say. Me and my husband have been married from 18 years. We're together. High school sweethearts, too.
Oh, 2 high school sweethearts.
Ups and downs, but we're still making it work. So we have 4 children now, 15, Josiah, 12, Suli, 4, and then Jaden, 2. So when Zoe and Josiah were diagnosed, we only had Suli. She was 6 months old. So we typically wanted to have the kids before going to school year, have a little vacation. So we went to LA because we have family over there. And before that, I started noticing Zoe's headaches like when pandemic was. I thought it was because maybe they were doing the schooling online. It was a lot of pressure for her. Well, she was complaining about a lot of headaches. A little bit before that, we noticed her left side hand weakness. It was more skinny. She wasn't using her hand. And my mom kept telling me it's something going on with her because that's not normal. So one day I asked her, how come you don't use your left hand? And she's like, because I don't know. I don't recognize that I have my hand. She forgot about her left hand, like to use it. I made an appointment with the pediatric. They did, like testing before sending the referral to a specialist. And we had the appointment scheduled in September, and the vacation was in August. So we still had a little gap between, the appointment. So we were on vacation. She was fine. We went to the flea market. We had to ask for a stroller because she couldn't walk. She will get tired walking. And then we went to the beach. And then that's when we were like, okay, this is something worse because she couldn't walk into the sand because her feet were like the left side was dragging and she couldn't make it. My husband had to carry her to the beach. And then when we were at the beach, I called the doctor, explained what was happening. She knew what was happening, but she's like, okay, where are you guys at? We were like, we're in LA. In vacations. And she's like, okay, I'm sorry, but you guys have to drop back home. And then Sacramento is our, biggest hospital there. Just like get home, go to Sacramento ER, and then, tell them what's happening, and they're gonna, take care of her sooner than waiting for the referral. So that's what we did. We drove in the night. We got at the hospital. And then we told them what was happening. They did an MRI, and they're like, she's going to stay because we need to figure this out. So they told us that she had something on her brain, but they weren't sure what was happening. They just told us, again, the word leukodystrophy, white matter. But the same of all of you, we didn't know anything about that. They never get sick for any reasons or anything. They were like perfectly healthy, especially Zoe. They told us that, and they show us a picture. I never seen a picture before, an MRI, so I didn't understand it, how severe it was. And then my husband had a drove that night, the following night, to drop off the other kids. Like I mentioned, we had a 6-month-old. So my mom had to stay with them, and then he drove back to the hospital to stay with us. So she was hospitalized for 2 weeks and a half. She had a biopsy on the brain. She had 2 lumbar punctures. She had to see if she was having seizures. She had a lot of blood work testing done. She was 11 at that time, so she was so strong going through everything. I only saw her one day, like bad, that she was crying. She was saying, "I can't do this, Mom." It was like at that point where I knew that she was like bad, because the other days she was really strong. After that, all of the testing, they couldn't tell us what it was. They did a genetic, they did everything. They weren't sure. So she went to the ER walking, and one of the main neurologists saw her standing up close to the microwave because she was eating food. And she was like, "Okay, she's fine. You guys can go home." We don't know what's going on with her. She was still having headaches. They put her on steroids. She was gaining weight. It wasn't Zoe anymore, like. So we were like, okay, if she's okay, like, and she's like, "Mom, I want to go home." So we were like, okay, if you feeling much better and it's working, you have less headaches, we can take her home. So we did. And then a couple of days went by, and she had a major headache. And I told my husband, we try to reach any doctor at the main hospital, and they never answer. And until I reach one doctor that he's from Guadalajara, and I told him what was happening. He's like, "You need to bring her here." And I was like, "No, I don't want to take her there because I didn't get any answers." I was like, "I'm going to take her to another hospital." And he's like, "Okay, I'm a doctor, and my advice is like, take her here. But if as a mom, you can, do whatever you feel like it's better for your daughter." And I asked her, she was in the back on the car seat in the car. And then I was like, "Are you up to at a trip of 4 hours from home to take you to another hospital?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Let's go." So we drove straight to the other hospital. And then we told them we were at this hospital. They didn't help us. We need a second opinion. And they're like, okay. So they admitted her again with the steroids for 5 days, but we got answers in there. They grabbed all the testing that they did in the other hospital. And they're like, it's Labrum syndrome, leukodystrophy, calcification, and cyst. Have you guys heard of it? And we were like, no. They didn't mention it at the other hospital. We were like, no. They didn't told us anything about it. And they're like, well, that's a rare disease. It's genetic. It's the gene. It's 1118. And we don't know anything about it. And we were like, okay, so what's next? And they're like, we don't know. The neurologist is going to reach out to you. They have to be treated, but we don't know what medicine, how to treat them. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know anything about it. There's been research, but they don't know anything about it. So we're like, okay, at least we know what it is. And I did Google it, but I couldn't understand a lot of it because I didn't know the outcome. I didn't know anything about it. So after 5 days, we took her home, and she's never been hospitalized since then, like one time. She had a major headache, but it was one day and that's it. She's walking, doing everything by herself. It took after she was hospitalized, she got out in a wheelchair. Her first year of school, 8th grade, in a different school, she was in a wheelchair. She was with an aide with her all the time. It wasn't Zoe. She was all swollen from the steroids. She couldn't even see herself in the mirror. It was sad because she was skinny, white, beautiful, and then see her all swollen. It was sad for everyone to see her like that. But once they changed the medicine, they said that they would try the medicine and see if that worked, because they tried it with other patients that didn't work as well as it's working for them. Everything, the swelling and everything went, because they changed her. So she's beautiful right now too. And she's been having aid at school, which is kind of hard for her because she's a teenager now, going into the 10th grade of high school. She doesn't want that aid anymore. So it's the struggles of what to do with that. And as a mom, I understand. She's a teenager. She wants to be a normal teenager. She wants to be, with friends and stuff. So I told her, okay, this year you're going to be without an A half of the day at the beginning and then move on from there. She's really independent as of right now. She gets a little help once in a while where she's tired, that I get into the shower with her. I do her hair. I do a lot of things, but mainly, most of the time, she's doing everything by herself. And then thank you to, I said, not in a bad way, but thank you for her that she went through all of this. They find out that Josiah also had it because they did a genetic test to, at that time, Josiah and Sully when she was little. And I didn't want to hear that, he had it too. But I was so afraid at that appointment when we went to the genetics and they told me, well, he has it too. And we were like, and now what? What are we going to do with 2 kids, that we don't know what's going to happen to them?
Right.
We don't know the future of them. Sully is a carrier. And then after Jaden was born, they did a genetic test a couple months later, and he's a carrier as well. So I was so afraid when we went again with Jaden. I was like, no, please, be just them 2 because they're older. And we don't know, I don't know what I'm going to do with, 4 kids or 3 kids with the same syndrome. Ever since everything happened, I never lose faith. I never ask God why, because I'm always been a faithful person since I was little. My mom took me to church every Sunday. So it wasn't even a question for me to ask God why.
That's amazing.
I just took it as
Really,
it
because
is.
I think we've all asked why. That's amazing.
I was like, this is happening for a reason. I always thought that God give and special need kids to people that are strong, that are faithful, and that he knows that is strong enough to take care of that children, to that child. So for me, it wasn't even a question. I didn't even ask. And until today, I took him every Sunday to church. And when they're, I don't know how to say it in English, when they take the communion. Sorry. Yeah, I thought it had a different name. But when they took the communion, I always pray to God to heal them little by little once they're taking that. That's my faith in there, that they're, if it is for them, just cure them little by little. I don't ask for him to cure him at all, but at least keep them how they are right now, healthy and walking and independent. I'm afraid, what's going to happen tomorrow. If, for example, Gracie, if they're going to be good one day and then the following day they're going to be down. I'm afraid of the fact of thinking, how they're going to be in a couple years. They're going to be in a tubing, feeding, or they're going to be, I'm going to be taking care of them in a bed. It just is scary. It's really, really scary for that fact of even thinking about it.
Right.
And Carly was saying, like grieving, like your kids are supposed to bury you, not the other way around. And that's kind of like my biggest fear, doing that. And I do have a lot of support. My family, my mom, I have a really support family that Zoe needs physical therapy and OT. So I have to take her to OT, PT, other nutrition, other appointments, and my mom is there to take care of the kids. It's always like she's always been there since the beginning, with Sully when she was little. We didn't see them for 2 weeks, and then they took them to see us at the hospital. I really am blessed to have that, support family. My husband's family is not really supportive because we don't ask for help, because I have that in my house. But I know that if they wouldn't, be close or whatever and somewhere we needed, they will help us in any way they can.
That's such a blessing. And I hope that for the families that don't have that, because there's a lot
Yeah.
that we can be that for each other. And that's really one of the hopes and goals of getting together for Symposium, or just having Hunter's Hope in general, is that we are one family and that we can support each other in whatever way we possibly can, because a lot of families just don't get that support, and it's so hard. It's a blessing to hear that you have.
And I have the support, like, where I need appointments and stuff to go, but I don't feel that I have the emotional support from anyone, in my family, because I can't really talk to my mom, because she will start like saying, "Oh, poor kids, they're gonna," and that's not something that I think of. I feel that they're blessed, and I don't think that they're poor little kids, because they're going through something, but they're blessed. So when I come here like that, I see all of you, moms and stuff, I feel a little bit more like emotional support than home.
I'm glad to hear that, because I was going to say, you got us, girl. We're right here.
Yeah.
So.
It's a blessing to, be here too.
Thank you.
And
thank you for being here.
For having that.
Miranda, you're next. Thank you.
I'm Miranda. I am Penelope's mom. She is 2 years old. Kind of strange to be talking about this. Yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of receiving her diagnosis. So just like recalling it all is 2 years doesn't seem, I don't know, it seems far, but it seems like yesterday, and it seems like, I don't know, time is so weird.
It is. Really
when
is.
you're going through this. So I feel like I can recall every moment. Yeah, 2 years yesterday, she was diagnosed with an early infantile Krabbe at 4 months old. She was born, we actually struggled for a really long time to get pregnant. Jared is my husband. We've been together for 11 years. We struggled for a really long time to have her. I've had 2 ectopic pregnancies and almost died on both of them. And then we had her via gestational carrier. And it was a typical pregnancy. We didn't really expect anything wrong. Her scans looked normal. Because it was a gestational carrier, we got to see her in the ultrasound like every appointment we went. We had maternal fetal medicine appointments, I think like 3 of them. We had really in-depth scans, and so we never thought that was going to happen. So she was about a month before she was born. Yeah. Her carrier had gone into the hospital, just early contractions. Looking back now, it's like, yeah, she's been in pain from day 1. She was born. She was 9 pounds, 3 ounces. She was a chunky girl. Like she just came out screaming, and she hasn't stopped since. But like she is very vocal. She lets us know. But Yeah, so she was born and she had this really weird tremor. And I remember asking the doctor, I was like, that doesn't look normal. Like, I know, this is my first baby. I'm not an expert, I know we're in this great hospital, but like, this is not normal tremor. Her arms were just nonstop shaking. And they were like, oh, it's just an underdeveloped nervous system. Like, just give her some time. They checked her blood sugar, it was normal. And I think from that day, like, she just never stopped shaking. I induced lactation, so I was able to breastfeed her, and which is really exciting to do. So
That's amazing.
yeah, that was a
Wow.
whole process.
Wow.
It was
That's
a
a
labor
whole
of
nother
love.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Wow.
So that was really exciting. I was really looking forward to breastfeeding her, and we did for about a week. And I noticed she just wasn't latching. And so we had, and you're in the hospital, the lactation consultants come in and they're like, try this position, throw her in this one, like, football, upside down, like whatever works, like, all these positions. And I was just like, she's just crying nonstop. Looking back now, it's like, yeah, she's been in pain from the beginning. So we left the hospital when I think we stayed in for about 4 or 5 days after she was born. We left. And I stopped breastfeeding probably like her first week and a half just because she wasn't taking. So we were like, okay, we'll try a bottle. She also wasn't taking that. Her swallowing, she was just choking so easily. And I was just like, something's not right, Jared. Like, this is not normal. We went to the first follow-up appointment and the doctor was like, oh, it could just be like a cow milk protein allergy, switch your milk, switch your formula, give it 2 weeks and then switch your formula. And we were like, okay, fine. At that point, when we went in for our first appointment, we had gotten our newborn screening results back and she was born in Virginia. So they do not screen for Krabbe.
So frustrating.
So frustrating.
So frustrating.
Yeah. So her newborn screening came back normal. And I was like, okay, it's not anything more, like, it's just a protein intolerance. So let's try a different formula. We waited about, probably 3 weeks after she was born and tried a different formula. It was still miserable. And then, you have to go for your 1-month follow-up. So we were at the doctor. She was gaining weight a little bit, but she was like above her birth weight, which they wanted to see. And I remember saying, like, she's just not eating right. Like, she's not taking her bottle correctly. And the doctor was like, well, just try a different nipple. Or like, maybe it could be colic. And I was like, and at this point, she wasn't sleeping. And I was like, okay, babies don't sleep sometimes. Like, maybe we're just having a rough go at it. Like, she only wanted to be with me. And Jared could not hold her. Nobody else could hold her. And at a month old, I was sleeping in the recliner because that's the only place I could get her comfortable. And it was like, get in a position and don't move.
Yes. So familiar.
Yeah. Once you move, it starts a whole flare up of screaming and crying. And so, we just lived in our recliner, basically, just Penelope and I. And that was really tough because, going through years of infertility, I was so excited to finally have my baby earthside with me. And so I just was like, this is not what I imagined motherhood looking like. And I think that was like the first time that I was like, I knew like the journey to motherhood was not typical either, but I was like, okay, I'm really being tested. And I was like, God, like, what are you doing here? Because this is, you're putting me through it right now.
Beyond.
Yeah. Like, but I was like, okay, like, I'm just trusting him. And like, you brought her here. You gave her to me. And so, like, you have a plan for her and for me, and it's going to be okay. And so we went to our 1-month checkup, tried different formula. I remember we were in the doctor's office like every other week. They were probably sick of me. They were like, "Oh, it's just colic. Like, she just has to outgrow it. Like, here's some omeprazole, just give her some meds." And I was like, "She's a month. Like, why are we giving her meds at a month old? Like, 2 months old? Why are we just shoving meds down her? It just doesn't." But it helped. And so I was like, "Okay." They were like, she wasn't pooping at this point. They were like, "Oh, just do bicycles, they have this like little tool that you have to stick up her butt to like and I was like, I feel so terrible doing this to her.
You do whatever you
Yeah.
can do, though. Isn't that the truth? Like all of us, every mom, like you just will go to the ends of the earth for your child.
You're
Like,
just whatever
it
works.
is, we'll do it.
Yeah. And so that's what we did. We used whatever gave her relief we were doing at that point. I had to go back to work, and I don't know how I managed it. Thankfully, I worked from home, so I would literally have her in one arm and my computer in the other, and I'm like typing with one hand. Like, I'm a pro now, one hand typing. But yeah, so it was just like I got in my position in the morning and I didn't move. And Jared works from home too, thankfully. So he would be our runner up and down the stairs for like getting her feeds every, whenever she needed to eat. It was like, don't move in that position. But she would just scream all day long. And I remember I went in and I was like, something's not right. Please, like, tell us something else to do. And they're like, it's just colic. You have to wait it out. And at that point, she had started really choking. And I was just like, is there a swallow study you guys can do? Like, can you check her sucking? And, the doctor puts their finger in her mouth and she's sucking and they're like, no, it's normal. Just try a different bottle. And I'm just, okay, we'll try. We have so many bottles. Like we should be partnered with all these bottle brands. So how many we bought. We went in for her 4-month checkup on July 5th. And her legs had started locking up at that point. She wasn't bending her legs and she was arching her back. And the doctor's like, has she always been like this? And I'm like, we've been here every other week. Like, how do you not know yes, she's been like this. It's just progressively getting worse now. Which was so frustrating. Yeah, 4 months checkup, we go in and she's lost 1 pound, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for a baby, it's a lot. And she was a chunky girl. So 1 pound, like, takes a lot off of her. And she was like, yeah, you guys should go straight to the hospital. Like, finally, they're listening. And so July 5th, we go to, thankfully, we're in Raleigh. And so we got to Duke and we got admitted for failure to thrive. I know everything feels like a blur from that time. Like, so much was happening. She got her IV and they did a CT scan. That was the first thing that they did, and it came back inconclusive. And they were like, we have to do an MRI on her, but she has to be sedated because she was not comfortable. We couldn't lay her down flat anyway because her back had started to arch so bad. And so, like, we propped her up on all these pillows under her arms, her legs, her head, and her back, and like, they sedated her for an MRI. And I remember just like praying. We had a playlist for her birth, and I just remember like the entire time just listening to this playlist over and over. It's like worshiping, and the MRI came back pretty quickly. We were in the hospital, and I remember the neurologist coming in, and at that point we had all the doctors in our room, neurology, palliative care. I was just like, whoa, this is a lot. There's a lot of people in here. I was like, something's not. They're about to tell us like the worst news ever. And our neurologist was so sweet. She came and I'm really sorry. I just want to show you the images of her MRI. like, here's her brain, and here's what we're supposed to see, and here's what we're seeing. We don't know for sure, but this is pretty typical with types of leukodystrophy. It's like, so we're going to call in a genetics team, and they're going to do a genetics. At that point, I was like, this is not good. And of course, don't Google. No, like
Don't Google.
Yeah. So her symptoms, all of it, and it comes back like possible Krabbe. And I was just like, this is terrible. So, it took about a week for us to get our final results from our genetic panel. And I think at that point, it was the palliative care was in our room like every day, just checking on us. Are you guys okay? How are you doing? What can we do? They came in and did foot molds. And I was just like, oh, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're doing foot molds of baby right now. Like, you're about to really bad news. But we were there, and, we had our time with her, and it was amazing. We made the best out of it. The chapel on Duke's property is so beautiful, and we made it to their main chapel, and we got to take her outside and walk around. And so, like, we just made the best of our time in the hospital, because we were like, we don't know what is about to happen, and we don't know how much time we have with her. And so that's it. And July 17th, we got our results back, and Dr. Kurtzberg actually was not at Duke, so she didn't get to come talk to us at that time. And so they sent somebody else from like the bone marrow transplant team and genetics, and they were both down there. They gave us the results, and they were like, fortunately, because she's already showing symptoms, she's symptomatic, we do not recommend doing a stem cell transplant. Which is like, we would have caught it earlier with newborn screening. That would have been our option, That's what we would have done. And they're like, some families still do choose to do a transplant at this time. They're like, but here's what it is. Like, you can kind of freeze where she's at. And I remember looking at her when she was arched, her legs weren't moving. And I was like, I can't freeze her like this. I can't make the decision to transplant her and have her. They're like, the transplant, you could get like another, 10, 15. They were like, we don't really know, but you could get a lot of time with her. And I remember thinking, like, if I transplant her, she's going to be frozen and in pain for the rest of the time that we have with her. I was like, I can't do that. But then I was like, if I don't transplant her, I was like, then what do we do? And they were like, well, you take her home and you make her comfortable and you make a lot of memories and you spend time with her and you love on her. And that's what we decided to do. And we got her G-tube placed while we were in the hospital. We spent 22 days. And so we came home with amazing hospice team. Penelope is 2.5, had amazing 2.5 years with her. We have our ups and downs. She has her good days and her bad days. Just recently, she's started to have some pretty significant progression where she's needed oxygen 24/7. And, it's in this weird place of like having to make these medical choices for her, where our children of like, we want the best quality of life for them, but we also don't want to prolong their suffering. And I think that's been our biggest, how do we give her the best quality of life and keep her comfortable? And that's been our main goal our entire life. She's 2.5, and I feel like I'm not very nice to myself sometimes. But then I look at her and I'm like, I'm doing this. Like, she's doing great and she's happy. And, just seeing her personality come out and her likes and her dislikes. If I'm doing anything right, it's being Penelope's mom. Yeah, just recently she's needed oxygen 24/7, and that's been really hard. We had a really tough discussion with our hospice team in January, because pretty much every, 4 to 8 weeks, she needs an increase in her oxygen, just like a half a liter, but she holds her breath for a good 30 seconds, 45 seconds at a time, and so, she'll change colors, and she just stops breathing. And then the tough discussion of, what does this mean? And so just recently, right around her second birthday, they were like, average life for early infantile is 2 years old and getting right around there. Her needs are changing a little bit, and this is possibly what it means. And it's really hard. They don't know. Every kid is different, right? Every kid does their own thing. And they're like, Penelope likes to prove us wrong. So we could be totally wrong about this. But also, when changes happen at a steady rate, they likely continue at that rate. And so based on her needs of oxygen right now, they've given us long months left with her. This unknown of this disease, I want to know things that I don't know, that only God knows. That, I ask these questions of so what does that look like? What does end of life look like? How is she going to die? What I need to be prepared. I'm not going to be prepared, but I want to try. And so just having the discussions of what do her last days look like based on where she is currently. That was really hard to have, but I feel like she's proven us wrong. I mean, she still is increasing on her oxygen every 4 to 8 weeks right now, but she's staying steady and she's so strong.
And so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's crazy. Listening to you share your story is I literally am listening to myself. Our stories are very, 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 very similar. The colic, the things I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that our stories were so similar. And Hunter lived to be 8.5. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's any encouragement to you or how you feel about that, but and there was a switch that was flipped eventually. And it was my mom, and she was just like, we got to stop treating him like he's dying and treating him like he's living. He needs his own room.
Mhm.
Obviously, we slept in the same bed together. So it was like my room too. But we need to decorate it. He needs to go and do things. And I'll also, during that time, God intervened. And when God intervenes, life comes in and there is no more death. And so God changed everything, and we just started treating Hunter like he was living, and he lived to be 8.5. And yes, we did all the things we possibly could do. He went on oxygen when he was 8 months old, and he was on oxygen the rest of his life. But we allowed any intervention that we possibly could do for him to give him life, because at the end of the day, God was either going to use that or he wasn't.
Mhm.
Right. And I was asked that question, actually. It was oddly 2 days before Hunter went to heaven. And it was a question. I was at an event and they said, well, how do you feel about end of life care and all of the things? How do you intervene? What do you do? And I said, you know what? Whatever has been provided on this earth, I'm going to use every single thing. But at the end of the day, God determines that anyway.
Mhm.
So Hunter could be on every single machine known to man. And if God said, today's the day, today's the day. So that's how we chose to, carry on with Hunter's care. But like I said, I think everything really did change when we stopped treating him like he was dying,
Mhm.
because he was living and we didn't
Yeah, he
know
was
how many
living.
days,
Yeah.
right? And Penelope, we don't know how many days. And the doctor said the same thing, 2 years, all the things, and then something else would happen, and then something else would happen, and it'd be like that. I
living
cannot
in
even
that
tell you.
limbo of is it gonna be months? Is it gonna be weeks? Is it gonna be years? It's but we
don't
have to
know.
make the best out of it while we
Absolutely.
have her. And so that's what we've done. We've traveled with her. We've gone to Disney World twice. We've gone to Niagara Falls. We've gone to, we on our way here, we actually traveled up the West Coast and went to Columbus. And we take her, she loves the car. And so we're just making the best
Yes.
of our time
Yes.
with her and our memories, and loving on her and letting everybody love on her. And, we're just so.
We love loving on her. So thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. of course.
Miranda.
Thank you. Thank you for
Last
having
but
me.
absolutely not least, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me. My name is Caitlin, and my husband is Wyatt. Wyatt and I have been together since 2018. We got married in 2022. I had a really good pregnancy and a really good birthing experience. And I remember watching them clean him up, and he wasn't crying. And, typically if you don't hear your baby crying, you're like, what's happening? And so I kept asking like repeatedly, and I just want to know, is he okay? Like, can you just lift him up for a second so I can see him? And my mom and my husband Wyatt were there, and they were like, oh no, he's beautiful. He's happy. He's not crying. Like, he's fine. He's breathing. Like, color is beautiful. That was reassuring. And they laid him back down, and I remember seeing his feet tremor. And I've been through a couple births with some of my best friends, and remembering seeing like his tremors as he was laying there. I told the doctor, I was like, it's not normal. Something's wrong. He goes, no, those are normal baby his nervous system going through something, but he's fine. He's beautiful. He's healthy. Like, you have a beautiful baby. You're okay. Like, just relax. And I told him, I was like, okay. And I pulled Wyatt to the side, and I was like, I know he said I'm okay, but those tremors are not normal. Ask him what's wrong. And he's like, well, you just asked him what's wrong. It's okay. Like, I was like, no, but those tremors, like, I'm looking at them and I see them now, and that's what I felt in my belly. So I know he's been doing that. So like, that doesn't feel right. But of course, like, we also had like the pure excitement of Wade being there, and it was just kind of a bittersweet moment because I just, like the mom instincts.
Yes.
You just know something, like, you just know, but you don't want to doubt anything. So you just kind of move along and you go along with what people are saying, and kind of fast forward to like the next 24 hours. He wasn't feeding properly, and he wasn't latching or sucking, and they had to warm him up, and he was in the NICU for a couple of hours just getting him toasty, and they brought him back to me, and we kept trying to feed, and I was told that there would be pressure to breastfeed, and I wanted to breastfeed, but I also wasn't opposed to bottle feeding. Like, whatever worked for him is what was going to work for him. So they just kept pushing the breastfeeding, and I was okay with that because that's initially what I wanted. It got to a point in the hospital stay where I was like, maybe we should just try a bottle. So we tried a bottle, and he just kept like gagging on the milk. What is wrong with this baby? What's wrong with my baby? What's wrong with him? We take him for his follow-ups. Week after week, he was losing weight. I mean, what a lot of us moms have gone through, the failure to thrive, the weight loss. He was immature in his feeding. So like, he just didn't know how to eat properly, and that it would get better with time. And we started speech therapy to help with feeding and just all the things. And it kind of just got to like an overwhelming like point where I scheduled an appointment with a gastro doctor. I remember walking in, and I was like, I don't necessarily know what's wrong with my baby, but I do know that he's not gaining weight and I need help. And so like, we just tried these different things. None of those things worked. It was in September of 2024. So at that point, he was probably 4 months. I walked into his gastro doctor practically without an appointment, walked in with Wade, and I said, I don't know what you need to do, but you need to do something. And I was like, he has to eat. He has to gain weight. And he was like, well, maybe a G-tube. And I said, where do I go to get a G-tube? And he was like, well, I can admit you. And I said, how long will it take you to admit us to that hospital? And he was like, well, you need to go home and get anything. And I told him, I said, no, it's already in the car. Like,
Wow.
we're going to that hospital. And he said, okay. So he was like, by the time you get there, you'll have a bed. And so we got there, got him in. They obviously evaluated him for 48 hours, I think. And we got a G-tube placed. And I think I underestimated my willingness to like look at the G tube and stuff, because I remember right after they placed it, I walked in and I was like, oh, I can't. I'm actually gonna break him if I have to do this. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. And my mom was like, well, that's your baby, so you actually are gonna touch him. And she was like, here, pick him up. And I'm like, no, just put him down. We'll figure this out. But like, I completely underestimated how
Traumatic?
traumatic that was.
Mhm.
Because, like, we go into a mom mode where we're willing to do anything, and we don't actually evaluate what we're going through too, So like, I get to this point where we have the G tube and I'm like, okay, he's gaining a little bit of weight and stuff. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a stridor, but it's caused by laryngomalacia, which is like floppy vocal cords. Ask me 2 years ago, I would have been like, man, that would have put me in a hospital. And like, it drove me insane. It was almost like listening to a baby cry, but he had it 24/7, and it just was like almost like a gasp for air, but it wasn't. Like, it was just this, I don't know. Continued to take him to doctor's appointments, similar to probably most of y'all. We were there every single week. I was just a crazy mom.
An amazing mom, actually. I think
Thank
that's
you.
what you meant to say that. Yeah,
Yes,
pretty sure.
I meant to say
Crazy, amazing. They
But
go
yes,
together.
also crazy.
They go
It's
together.
fine. And I was there every single week, and they were like, look, Caitlin, like, it's gonna be okay. And I was like, okay, well, I just want the proof that it's gonna be okay. That's what I need. And I was like, I just need some answers. And I was like, he's changing. And so like, we went from feeding issues to no feeding issues, because now we have a G tube, and that was working. And now we're dealing with posturing, and posture and tense up so bad that like, he would almost kind of like remind me of a donut. Like, he just would bend all the way back, and there was nothing we could do to get him out of that position. So we continued to like navigate this medical journey, and I don't think that I didn't have doctors that didn't believe me. I just don't think that they felt the urgency that I felt. And so
Well, it's not their child, so they can't, right?
like, they weren't panicking. They weren't waking up day in and day out like trying to find out what was wrong with their baby. And I spoke with his pediatrician. I was like, look, I'd really like to speak to a neurologist. And so she was very like quick to advocate for us. And she was like, you know what? That's fine. She was like, but I don't think you're going to get like significant answers. And I was like, okay, but still, I'll take the referral. And I was like, you can fax it, but I'd also like a copy. We finally get into the neurologist, and we sit down with the neurologist, and he's like, look, I'm looking at him. He's got some hyper and hypotonia, so like a little bit of both. He was like, I'm going to diagnose him with cerebral palsy based off of his legs. And he was like, well, yeah. Well, I mean, we literally see hyper and hypotonia. Like, he was like, you must have had a very traumatic birthing experience. And I was like, no, actually, I didn't. Like, I went in at 5:00 p.m. and had him by 11 p.m. So there was nothing traumatic about it. And he told me, he was like, well, that's really strange. He was like, but for now, I'm just going to diagnose him with cerebral palsy. He goes, I'll get an MRI scheduled. We'll get some testing done, and we'll go from. So we get the MRI back. MRI comes back, and they're like, the MRI is normal. Well, and I guess I should rewind back to, he said, if the MRI comes back normal, or maybe even abnormal, we'll do genetic testing. He was like, we'll look for an answer. So we get the MRI results back. I remember walking into his office and just kind of feeling a little defeated, because I still felt like something was really wrong. And we have the MRI results, and he read them off, and he was like, your son's brain looks normal. And I was like, okay, so where does the cerebral palsy come in at that point? Like, where are you getting cerebral palsy from? And he was like, well, hyper and hypotonia. I'm like, okay, well, I want different answers. Like, I want something to explain that. Can we do genetic testing? And he goes, well, I know I said we would do genetic testing. He goes, but in a year, I promise you're going to see brain damage. And I looked at him and I was like, no, I'm not waiting a year to see brain damage. I would like an actual answer. Like, that's not an answer. And he was like, well, I'm not going to submit genetic testing. He was like, I promise you in 1 year you will see brain damage. And he goes, and then we will take it from. And he goes, if anything else comes up or happens, we will revisit. And he was like, so we're not doing genetic testing.
That's ridiculous. Sorry, I just had to add that because I'm sure everyone listening is like, what?
So I think I looked at him and I looked at my husband and I looked back at him and I was like, thank you for nothing. I packed Wade up and we left, and I got on the phone with his speech therapist and his OT, occupational therapist, and his physical therapist, and said, like, look, I need different recommendations for some of the best neurologists here in San Antonio. Like, I need to talk to somebody that will consider Wade's case. Like, I don't know what else to do. And y'all work with a lot of children, and these children see a lot of neurologists, so give me your best one. And she was like, well, Dr. Svoboda, we actually called her office, got in with this pediatrician. The therapist reached out to Svoboda, and they got us an appointment within a week. And I remember going into that appointment, and we sat down with the neurologist, and they looked at him, and he goes, I've never seen a child with the different posturing or like different tones throughout his body. He was like, typically we see like one or the other, but not really both. And he goes, he was like, that makes me a little nervous. He was like, I do truly believe something is wrong with Wade, and we'll find out. He goes, but the only way to do that is genetic testing. It may be 6 months to a year before we'll get results. I said, well, at least we're getting the process started. That's all I can ask for right now. So we come up, like the colder months, when all the kids get sick and it just really takes a toll on their bodies. And I remember Wade getting really sick, and it was the week of Thanksgiving, and I've never seen him like that. I thought I was going to lose him. The neurologist came in and he said, I'm so sorry that it's taken this to get here. He was like, but I'm going to find out what's wrong with your baby. And he goes, and I'm going to expedite everything. He said, you will have an answer before you leave this hospital. And he said, and it'll probably be a week. And so they did like lumbar punctures, and they did MRIs and CT scans and blood work and genetics and everything. And he actually came back in, and mind you, this was only like maybe a month and a half difference from the first MRI that we had on Wade. And he came in and he goes, I can't really confirm for sure, but it looks like he has vanishing white matter. And he said that the only way to like truly confirm it was the genetic testing. And he said, I'll have an answer for you in 7 days. He was like, I know it's going to be really hard to be here for 7 days, but he was like, I'm trying. Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, the geneticist came in and they gave us the results, and they told us that Wade had 4H leukodystrophy and that he had polar 3A, which is a more aggressive strand of it. And because we saw it in infantile, like, it was probably going to be a little more serious. Kind of the same spew that we all get. There's not a lot we can do for you. You take your baby home and you have as many good days as you can. Something I've learned through this process, and I think whenever, or I guess specifically me, but losing Wade this past June, I felt like his diagnosis was worse than losing him. Although I miss him, I know he's healed. And I know he's perfect, and I know he's laughing and playing, and he's so beautiful. The diagnosis, it almost feels like when you get that diagnosis, like that's when they pass away. And then you're just left with the aftermath of like understanding that you have not very long, or maybe it's long, but not long enough. It's never long enough, right? So you're left with this, put as much stuff into this time frame that you can. I think what all of us moms do, because we love our babies so much. and it's so scary. And then I got up and I said, "You know what? I'm going to do whatever I have to do for him for as long as I have to do it. That's it. I'm not going to sit in bed and I'm not going to cry, and I know I'm going to have bad days, but I also know that I'm going to have a lot of good days." And so we had Wade for just shy over 2 years. He was so beautiful. I can't even describe. He had 275 people at his celebration of life. A lot of people for a little 2-year-old boy. I think that the footprints that he left on Earth share a really, really beautiful story about him and about us, but also about so many people that go through what we're going through. I hope that through his life that people just hope that he's never forgotten.
Well, he certainly won't be by us. That's for sure. And those who love and know him most. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your tears, because that's real and it's honest and it's hard. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for sharing your heart and again, sharing your tears. And thank you all. You're amazing women. You're amazing moms. And we love your children, those here and those in heaven. And there is a reunion coming. I don't know how long. I don't know when. And I actually hope God has like an iPhone or something better. It better be better, just to give us the replay of what they experienced, those of us who have children there. But anyway, there's some really awesome questions I think that would be valuable to answer. And so I have 5 of them, and I'm going to share them with you now, and then you can choose which one you want to answer. None is fine. Whatever you want to chime in to someone else's answer, that's great. So number 1 is, how has your child's diagnosis or losing your child changed you as a woman and a mom? How has this journey affected your marriage? Yeah, that's a hard one. How has this experience impacted your faith? Number 4, what do you wish people understood about being the mom of a child who is terminally ill or a mom whose child is in heaven? And number 5, if you could sit across from a mother who just received the diagnosis you once heard, or who has just buried her child, what would you want her to know?
This is Caitlin here. So I think that if I could sit across the room from a mom just losing their child, if there's one thing that I could tell her, is that in the midst of the chaos, in the process of losing their child, like in that moment, it doesn't take away from how traumatic or scary it is, but there's this stillness that comes over you. And it's probably one of the most peaceful moments I think I've ever had in my entire life. I knew in that moment, when Wade's heart stopped beating, that he was truly in the arms of God. It was the most serene and beautiful experience. It was horrible. It was sad, you don't want to lose your baby. But it was almost comforting to know that 1, they were no longer suffering, and 2, it's not scary. You build up the anticipation of what this is supposed to look like for yourself and for your child and for your spouse. It's so much more frightening, and then you're in the moment and you're like, wow, that was God. And you just feel this comfort and this peace and this serenity, and you're holding on to your child. You just realize how beautiful and perfect their life was. And I think that if somebody would have told me that, I wouldn't have been so scared. And so I think it's really, really important to know, yes, it's not an ideal moment. It's not a perfect moment. It's not a moment any of us ask for, but it is a beautiful moment, and it's not scary. And I think that despite everything we've been through in our lives with our child and where we've brought them through the years, that we can do it. We're strong. Yeah, it shows a different kind of strength. It
Amen.
really is a different kind of strength.
It's a
And
strength.
I didn't know I had it.
Right.
And I didn't know I could do it, and I thought I was gonna run out of the house and, like, I don't know who I was gonna call for, but I was gonna call for something, and I didn't do any of that, you know, and I just want moms to know that not ideal, but it is beautiful.
It reminds me
And
of a verse as you're just saying it. In our weakness, He is strong. The strength of God, because only God knows the depth of that pain.
I had absolutely no idea that I would have the strength that I had in that moment.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that.
This is Carly. I think one thing, kind of going off a little bit with what you said about how it can be beautiful, kind of ties into a little bit with what I've learned about God and how my faith has been challenged through this, because I like to control. I overthink, and then I do everything that I can to control the outcome. I say I release things to God, but it's really like, hey, God, I'm giving you Hadley so you can heal her here on earth, not I'm giving you Hadley. Here is her life. Use her how you want. Follow my plan. I surrender this to you to complete my plan for me,
That is
because I
so
can't do
good.
it.
Said every mom. We want control because we think we know better. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, keep going.
Yeah.
What you're saying is so good.
And so like one thing I've learned is he doesn't quite operate that way. Sometimes our visions align with each other, but more often than not, it's a lot different process. And so just kind of in that whole knowing that this life can still be beautiful, I've realized that through my conversations with God. And I used to, like growing up, I learned how to have reverence for God and to respect Him. That God is still our Father and He's here with us all the time, but He is the God of all gods, Lord of lords. And so then I almost, like in my mind, because of that, put Him so high that I knew I should have a personal relationship with Him, but I also made Him unrelatable. And through everything with Hadley, I had to realize, like, I have to bring him down. Like, he's trying to come down from heaven. So I have to allow him to come down and truly live in my heart. And then what that means is he gets to hear and see all of me. And I don't have to chat GPT my prayers to him. I don't have to make it sound professional. I don't have to have the right words. He has heard, like, I have talked the ugliest to God
Yes.
and maybe sometimes to my husband, but like overall, God is like the one that I have talked the ugliest to, where other people would probably be like, whoa, okay, like that's a little uncomfortable, or you're saying too much. I've blamed him, and I've told him that I've blamed him. I've just done all of that. I've yelled at him. I've cried to him. And then at the end of all of that, I still practice that surrendering. And when you read Psalms and when you read lots of places in the Bible, there's
Job is a very
Job.
good
Yep.
example of that.
I try to stay away from that book.
It's like my favorite book.
Oh, good for you.
I know.
Yeah.
What is wrong with me? It's what I was introduced to that when I was a new believer. And like
Ooh,
what I took away from that is that God is sovereign.
yeah.
God said, have you considered my servant Job? And
Mm.
so in knowing that God is sovereign, that no matter what is going to be filtered through his hands, no matter what it is. It doesn't make it
Yeah.
easy. It doesn't make me feel good. But knowing that he is sovereign, no matter what,
Right.
it gives me comfort, even if I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, and he was honest. Like so many of the and David, so many people in the Bible, like the way they talk to God. I'm like, why have we ever like thought we have to be prim and proper? Like
Right.
God's not calling us to be prim and proper. Like he's calling us to be honest. Honest with ourselves, honest with him. And like I still think there's like a line of respect and everything too, but how is he ever supposed to work in me and change me if I'm still hiding things from him by trying to speak so eloquently, because then I'm not fully being honest and then I'm harboring it inside. And if I'm not honest with him, then that ugly talk is going to probably most likely fall on my husband, and he doesn't deserve that either. And so,
Well, maybe sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Not at
He
all. You're right.
deserves. But I think that's like kind of my big takeaway and like my biggest growth is realizing like how I can have this deep relationship with God that is raw and
Mm.
it's authentic. And that has been freeing. And he already knows my thoughts, but he wants to hear me voice them and like allowing myself to just release that.
And it's for you.
Yeah.
I mean, because like
It's
you just said,
freeing,
God already knows
liberating.
your thoughts. He already knows every word on your tongue before you speak it. So it's for your blessing and your benefit and your freedom to be so honest.
This is Anna. I think that the question about how has it changed you as a woman or as a mother, suffering will change you whether you want it to or not. I think in my case, she's number 8. And so I knew how to be a mother. I knew all about mothering. I knew the steps that you take to have a child that's sick or needs care. I knew all of the things. And that's one of the reasons in her diagnosis story, I didn't even question what was happening. I probably sounded like all these doctors that were like, oh, she's fine. Everything's fine. Because I've been, I'd had 7 and we do have things in our family. So I just went along with it. Like, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll work its way out. It's all going to be. And so I sounded probably like all these doctors that you're all mad at. And I get it.
Now you understand. No.
And it's funny because they're the ones telling me that I need to do all these things. And I'm like, oh, wow, he is so over the top. Why does he want us to go get this MRI? It seems so crazy. But God has really worked on me as a mom because I am the control freak that we all tend to be as moms. And I do feel like that there has been some real breaking down of the control, specifically when it comes to my children. There was some parts of me that I really didn't see how ugly the control had taken over. As my older children have grown, you see it in the ways that they get a license or, they are walking out the door and you're constantly, oh, call mom, track them, do the things. But then God gives you something that you cannot control. I cannot control. And my husband and I have talked about this so many times. We feel very helpless, but we're not hopeless, with Gracie. And that's one of my husband's favorite sayings. So I say it a lot too. We're helpless, but not hopeless.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
And it's really opened my mind to believing that as I gripped my children so tightly in my hands and thought that I had the control of them, I could control their every move or make sure that they were safe or protected. And God has had to use Gracie's life to really pry my fingers from the grip of her and had to just one finger at a time have me release that control. And that's probably the biggest change in my mothering that I've had to experience. And as a child of God, I've had to wrestle with theology. And the theology that I had to wrestle with was his sovereignty. Because somewhere in the back of my head, I got growing up that you do the right things, you go the right path, you do what he asked you to do, and your life will be relatively easy. I knew there would be suffering. That was not, we're humans. But from some reason in my theology, it was like, there's not going to be this big, dramatic suffering. I don't even know where I got that. I don't think that was ever taught to me. It just is what it is. You just believe that, it's not going to be that bad. So maybe that's why I just was like, it's going to be fine. God has shown me that in his sovereignty, it actually can be really, really bad. Really, really bad. And he actually allowed it.
Job.
Yes. And that's a great, I mean, I read the book of Job. Why didn't I just realize that this is what it is? But he's really shown me that, in all of this suffering and all of these really hard things, we're probably going to lose her. And I'm probably going to have to bury my daughter. And that's not the way it's supposed to be on this earth. That it's not what he wanted, but he is allowing it. He has so developed in me this love for him that I'm so desperate for him now. I don't understand it. I can't even explain it to you. But I'm telling you right now, I don't want to lose this with him ever, ever. I would have way wished it was in another way. But I really do believe that I am so desperate for him and his word. And I love every morning I get to wake up and spend with him. It's so real. It's so raw. And like you were talking about, we talk about it all. Yes, I'm living right now between miracles. The life, my daughter, the day she was born was a beautiful miracle. Every time our children are born, that's a miracle. I mean, life is a miracle. And I'm waiting for a miracle again. And I hope it's on this side of heaven. I do. To see her not struggle or hurt anymore. Or say, Mommy, it's okay. I'll just crawl now. And I can't wait for that.
It is the miracle. We forget that because we so badly want them here with us.
Mm-hmm.
But the miracle is that, they truly, they're angels on earth. They're so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I can't think of anything more perfect than Wade or Penelope or Hadley or Gracie or your 2 beautiful babies. Your 4 beautiful kids, but there's just something so pure and so perfect about them. And when God comes and takes them, that was my miracle.
Right.
Would I have loved to have had him longer? Of course.
Yeah.
But not at his expense.
No.
And so I just remind myself every day that I wake up that he's healed.
Yeah.
Amen.
He's walking.
Amen.
He's running to God. He's smiling. I can't even imagine how beautiful they look up there.
Yeah.
And we never want them back here.
No.
No.
Ever.
No. And so
that's how it's changed me.
Well, thanks.
all that to say, does anyone else want to add anything, answer one of those questions?
This is Zulia. I feel that it changed me the way I see everything now. It's like living day by day, time, hour through hour. The strength that I have now, I never expected to see it before. Not even giving birth to any of them. Especially Zoe, she was born, she weighed 3 pounds and 4 ounces. And since she was born, it was a miracle. Because she wasn't even in the NICU, she was gain weight fast, perfect. Even if it was small baby. But now that they give us all this diagnosis and 2 of them, back to back, Zoe's was first. And then a couple months later was Josiah's. And at first I thought, what I'm supposed to do now? What it's going to be tomorrow. And then I even had a chance to thought about through leaf, how it's going to be, or it's just my mindset got okay, it is what it is. You're going to take it how it comes. You're the mom. You're going to try to make it better for them every day and be strong for them and for all of them. Even my husband, he broke down many, many times in the hospital, and I was the strongest, pushing him, hey, we're going to be fine. She's going to be fine. And I think my mainly strength at that time, it was Zoe. She taught me a lot on those days because she was really, really strong as well. She had faith. She had St. Jude with her all the time. And she was really, really strong on those days. So I was like, if she's as strong, I'm going to be better than her. I'm going to be her tree on the side and be like, what do you need? Are you okay? It's every day. Are you okay? how are you feeling? Like, for example, now she wants to get a nose pierce. I'm okay with it. I just want her to enjoy life and do things that she wants to. Of course, I'm not going to let her do things that I think that are going to be, hurtful or things that are not okay. But I'm trying to let her live her life however she wants, but me guiding her in a way that she's going to enjoy her life. Because I don't want to have any regrets later if something happened to both of them. Saying, oh, I should have let her do this, or I shouldn't let be like whatever they want. It's just living day by day for me and for us, and not thinking about anything else. I don't like to think about the future. I don't like to think about anything else than today, be a better person for them and a better mom for them. So now I'm going to school, trying to get better for all of them. Something that before I was going to, but I was like, I'm a mom, I can't. Now it's like, yes, I can. I can take them to appointments. I can manage the house. I can go to school, and I can be for them all the time. So it's like a different kind of strength that you get, and you see your life different than before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Miranda. I guess I want to kind of piggyback off of that. Like if I could sit down in front of a mom who just received this diagnosis, because I feel like my world ended at that moment. But that's not true. It was the beginning of a new world. It's not the world that I imagined, but it is the world that God has created for us and for Penelope and for Jared and for our family. And it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy, and you're going to be mad, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to cry. And it's okay to have your feelings through it, because God can take it all. Just like how you were saying, Carly, like you talk to him and be raw, and real. And so it's okay to feel your emotions that come up. And I think one of the biggest things for me was just like not understanding why any of this is happening and why it had to be me. And so if I could just sit down with 2 years ago, Miranda, and be like, you're not going to understand it, but you're going to make the best of it. And like this control that we have all talked about, right?
Mhm.
Like you're still going to want to control it all. Like you're not going to know what to do, but you are their mother and you know how to love them, and you
Yes.
are going to know how to anticipate their needs. That's what you know how to do. That's what you can control, is your love for them. Take the bad days, because in 2 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, I want that day back. I wish I could go back to that bad day, and take the good days, because you're going to hold on to those so much tighter. Give yourself grace, because as a mom, you put yourself last. You're the last person to get fed. You're the last person to get showered. You're probably running on 3 hours of sleep. So be kind to yourself. And I'm saying all these things to like a newly diagnosed parent, but also to us right now, because we're living in it.
Take your own advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to take my own advice. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like talk to somebody, get a therapist. It's so important. And I guess I could turn that into the marriage question as well. Like, how's that changed our marriage? And one thing that comes up for all of us is our children are perfectly created images of God, but so are our husbands.
Good reminder.
And it's hard to see them that way when
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are, plucking our last nerve. But
So true.
But they are God's children too.
They
And
are. Yeah.
to love them and give them grace just as much as we want them to give us grace. Yeah, it's changed my marriage dramatically, all of my life. Again, like it was the beginning of a new life, and you're going to know how to make the best of it, because that's what you do as a mom.
I
what
love,
you do as a woman.
I love how you said that about love. Like that you can't control everything, but you can love them. And
Yeah.
isn't that the greatest
Yeah.
gift anyway? You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I know our listeners are going to be blessed. You want to say something? Yes. Yay.
Yeah. Hey,
Sure.
This is Carly. I just want to say one more
Carly.
thing. And you've talked about it a little bit, just advice, and I put it off. But it is to get involved in communities with other people who are walking through the same thing. I put it off because if I got into a community for people who knew what I was going through, then that felt like accepting and like approving this is our life. And someone that I met here last year had told me acceptance isn't the same thing as approval. And so once I kind of got over that, and last year was our first year coming to Hunter's Hope. And then I just realized how much I was drowning and how thirsty I was for this community. It was so overwhelmingly beautiful. Like we walked in the doors, checked in, turned around. We saw a whole big table full of backpacks and people. And Anna was one, and then another mom walked up and they're like, "Is this your first time?" And we're like, "How can you tell?" And so they introduced themselves, and then within seconds after that, other kids, both affected and siblings, came right up to our girls, not just Jolie, but Hadley too. For the first time since before the diagnosis, our whole family felt seen. Hadley felt understood to us. We felt understood without even saying a word. And when we got back home, one of my friends, everybody's asking, how was it? How was it? And one of them said, "Carly, describe your trip in 3 words." And without hesitation, I said, "Heaven on earth." Because I feel like when we go to heaven, that's what it is. Everyone is accepted. It doesn't matter what you've come with. It doesn't matter the life that you lived before. Jesus is standing there with arms wide open, already knowing every single detail about you, about your life, about everything that you've walked through. And that's how it felt here. I didn't have to explain Hadley outside of, people wondering what are the intricate details of her, but they knew how to hold her. They knew how to talk to her. They knew how to look at her, even if she's not looking back, even if she's not saying hi. I don't have to talk for Hadley. I don't have to answer for Hadley because everyone here just knows that her response doesn't have to be a verbal or even reciprocal, but that she is loved and our family is loved. And that's just what heaven is. Like, it's that immediate acceptance. And that's what we felt coming here. We felt that last year. And of course, we continue to feel it here, being here. But then even the relationships that we carried through. And we're trying to convince everybody to move to Iowa. And I don't think it's working out. But
or your zip line swing.
But just, yeah, everyone's convincing everyone to move all to the same place.
Well, it could be here.
Yeah, Hunter's Hope compound.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
But those relationships, they stick, and everyone's just a text or a phone call away, and it truly is just amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing. You shared that with me the other day, and I cried again. And the only one that can do that is God.
This is Zulia. Like Carly was saying, it's a community that you don't have in your home. So for us, the first time that we came, it was so, I don't know, for me, it was so amazing too, that I saw a lot of kids, a lot of parents, like she's saying, like that everything was perfect. Especially I noticed it on my kids. We never been around kids that have disabilities. We do have family members, but we're not that too close. We only have a Down syndrome, and he is amazing. He's around the family and everything, but that's about it. I notice people in the community that are disabled, but we're not too close. We don't know anything. And it's just scary, even to go and ask what's wrong or things like that. So when we came here, my kids never were around people like this. So every year that we come, it's so excited, especially for Suli that it's little. She came when she was like, I think it was 2. And now that she's more older, and I noticed that kindness that she had for the kids, that she gets close to them and then she's talking to everyone. She's like that, but not as she's in here. I feel that she
Right.
feels more comfortable, more welcome. And Zoe, it's kind of like more herself. This year, I noticed that she's more open, that it's more interacting. Josiah, it's another different world. He's being late to the room with hanging with the boys and stuff like that. So
love that.
he feels free in here because he
Mm.
doesn't have any other people like that over there that they can feel themselves.
Right.
And me and my husband, well, my husband talks a lot. So
I know that now.
every second that he's walking, he's talking to someone, and he's like that over there. But I feel that he feels more free in here talking to all of them because he knows that they understand him. Like, for example, he went to the men's session, and I was like, that was your therapy, right? And he's like, yes. It feels so good because I've been pushing him to go, but he just doesn't want to go. He feels more, I feel his body more relief when we come here, more, because he's always having his tents, in the house because he's that one that works, he's that provider. It's been a journey for him, work and a lot of things. All of us feel like that these days are short, like we need more of this,
Oh, let me see what I can do.
because it's like, oh my God, it went so fast. It's
It
already
does.
like Sunday.
It really does go by fast.
And it's kind of like therapy for us as kind of like in a way. And the kids, I never seen the kids like this over there in the house, because we don't have a community like this.
I wish I could take credit for all of the things that we've said about the foundation, but I truly believe it's God at work in and through all of us being together. And He is the foundation. He always has been. He always will be. And what He has done is far beyond. I have to use the title of the podcast. It's immeasurably more than we could have ever asked or imagined. And our families that come are just incredible people. And we pray for you. And we just are seeing the fruit of God's blessing in the midst of so much pain and suffering. So would you close us in prayer, Anna? Would you mind?
God, we are so grateful, Lord Jesus, that you have given us this place, Lord, to belong. And just like my fellow sisters here have said, Lord Jesus, that you are here. We feel you here. We feel you with our kids here. And thank you that we were able to come on, just share our stories. But Jesus, in the end, it is your story. And we just thank you for that. We thank you that we get to live this life with such joy and strength and continue as we go on our way today, but always, Lord, for all of the families that have come this week, but for the ones in this room, that you would bless them, you would keep them, you would make your face shine upon them and give them peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.